Hello, everybody. It is Michelle here for the Strong and Simple podcast. Hope everybody is well today, and I hope you enjoyed Friday's episode, our little supplement smash or pass episode. And if you have not listened to that episode yet, I do recommend that you go back and take a listen. Marissa and I were a little slap happy, so had some extra fun with it. So take a listen. And as usual, let us know if you have any questions or, thoughts about it. We always love to hear from you. What I want to do today in today's mini-sode is to just give you a little overview of one of the pretty much the only supplement that we were like, yes, smash this shit, right? And that supplement is creatine. And I know most of our listeners on here are women or identify as women. And there might be some nervousness around the supplement, around taking or supplementing with creatine, because it is oftentimes portrayed or thought of as like very bro-y, or even has a reputation as being a steroid, which it is absolutely not. So I wanted to just kind of break down and try to give you a little overview of what creatine is and why you might want to think about supplementing with creatine, if it's something that would work for you and your goals. And by no way am I prescribing this to you or making any sort of medical recommendations. I always suggest you have conversations with your medical professionals, because I am not a medical doctor. So what is creatine? Creatine is an amino acid. It is not a steroid. It is found naturally in our muscles and is found when we eat red meat, pork, fish, organ meats like liver, right? And it is one of the most researched and evidence-based supplements out there. There is so much research. There is so much evidence about how creatine can be beneficial for us. And there's also more research done specifically on women, which is not always found in the world of fitness. If you follow research in the fitness world, a lot of time research is done on men. Men have less variables than women in terms of hormones and fluctuations throughout the month that makes controlling the variables of a research study, quote unquote, easier. So for that reason, a lot of researchers and studies are done mostly on men for that purpose. So what's nice about creatine is we know that there are studies done specifically on women in addition to men. So it's found naturally in our muscles. It's stored there. It's also stored in our brains. If you have testes, some of it is also stored there. And while we store it and while we can get it from our diet, we're not necessarily getting an optimal amount of it to support our training, especially if we are lifting heavy and we are trying to gain strength and potentially size in our muscles. When we take a creatine supplement, we are increasing our stores of phosphocreatine, which is a form of stored energy. Okay. It helps us produce more ATP, which is the body's energy currency for high intensity, short duration exercises like lifting. Think about when you do a deadlift, those 1 or 2 reps that are like really hard, right? Or if you're doing sets of 3, this is what we're talking about. Short duration, high intensity, under 10 seconds. That is this energy system that creatine is going to help with. So the more ATP we have, the more energy we have to lift more weight, which will help us create more muscle tears, which then allows us more to repair for strength and for size. Okay. So when we are using our energy in this system, ATP is depleted after about 10 seconds. All right. So again, if we are performing at that high intensity, we're going to deplete that ATP pretty quickly. If we are supplementing with creatine, we are going to be able to provide more energy at that higher intensity level for a few more seconds or a few more reps. Okay. It's really, it sounds like it's not a lot. But if you are working in that kind of strength range of lifting, it's going to go a long way. You know how impactful that one more rep can really be for you. There's also some research with potential benefits on brain health, bone health, blood sugar regulation, muscle functioning in older adults. Most of these studies so far have been done in animals, so we do need a little bit more time here with more studies in humans to really be definitive on these things, but the outlook is really promising, which is really, really cool, especially the research that's being done on postmenopausal women in muscle and bone strength. So it's pretty cool. I think I linked one of the research studies in the last episode on Friday, but I will try to find another one and put it in there too if you like to geek out and read some of those studies. So if you are looking to start taking creatine, to start supplementing with creatine, how much should you take? So overall, you want to be looking at taking 3 to 5 grams of a creatine powder, and each day, 3 to 5 grams a day. When I take mine, I just toss the scoop into my post-workout smoothie. If I didn't work out that day, I just add it into a little bit of water and I just shoot it back. It's really, I get the just plain flavored, there's no flavor, plain Jane creatine. You're going to see a lot of supplements out there that have like a lot of bells and whistles to them. Those aren't really necessary. Oftentimes, these pre-workout or post-workout supplements that also contains creatine may not even have that 3 to 5 grams of creatine in it to make it even beneficial. So just really pay attention to that and be an informed consumer. Creatine's pretty cheap. So you don't really need something with a ton of bells and whistles is what I'm saying, but you make your own decisions. Okay. Some people and some professionals recommend that you do a loading phase for 5 to 7 days when you're first starting to take creatine. And that just means that instead of taking 3 to 5 grams a day for the first 5 to 7 days, you're going to take 20 grams a day, split into 4 5-gram servings throughout the day to load up your muscles. Because what we're looking for, again, is that storage in our muscles that's then going to help us with our energy storage, right? And have more energy during our lifts. So by loading this, we're kind of getting to that maximum level of stores faster. However, you can just start by taking the 3 to 5 grams a day. It just might take 3 to 4 weeks to kind of reach those maximal stores. There is no need to cycle on creatine. There's no need to take creatine for a month, take a week off or anything like that. Studies of, I think it's up to 4 years is one of the longer studies. And there has been no evidence of negative side effects, negative long-term effects. There's no evidence of kidney or liver harm. There's a lot of myths out there that taking creatine is going to destroy your kidneys. There is absolutely no evidence of that, even in really long-term studies. Again, always consult with your doctor if you're somebody who has concerns with your kidneys or any sort of medical concerns. You should definitely always talk to your medical professional before supplementing, right? But there's no evidence in any of the research to show that creatine supplementation adds to kidney damage. So what creatine might do and what you might notice when you start supplementing is you might notice a little bit of water gain. If you're somebody who does weigh yourself, you might notice over the course of the month, 1 to 4 pounds of water gain. And this is because creatine is pulling water into our cells. So you just want to make sure that you are also drinking water when you're supplementing and you are hydrating when you are supplementing with creatine. Stay hydrated. It's always a good idea anyways. But take that creatine, those 3 to 5 grams with a big glass of water. And that's going to help because our muscles are going to pull that water in. This kind of gives our muscles, it can give our muscles like a little bit of a swollen look to them, which some people like. But this idea, there's also this fear, especially for women, that if we take creatine, we're going to get super bloated. And that's just like not necessarily true. And if we're going to have some really good exercise and fitness output on the other side, is that 1 to 4 pounds in the long run really a big deal? For you, it might be. So that's just something you want to consider. But you know, we know how I feel about the scale, so take it or leave it. Other thing you want to pay attention to when you are looking for a supplement is you want to get creatine monohydrate. You should definitely get it in powder form. The research is not as strong or on liquid forms. And again, you can get this really cheap. You do not need something with a ton of bells and whistles. It's probably just a lot of junk. That's not necessarily going to be, it's not necessarily going to be harmful for you, but it's also not going to be beneficial. So save your dough so that you can spend it on like, new yoga pants or supporting a local charity or something, right? Or get heavier bells. Lots of better things to spend your money on. So anyways, that's a very quick, I wanted to keep this episode like a real true mini-sode today. Just a very, very brief overview of what creatine is, why you might want to consider supplementing with it, how to supplement with it if you do choose that, and, just some of the potential myths that are floating around out there. I guess they're not potential myths, they are myths, to try to debunk those. So I hope this was helpful. Would love to hear from you either over on our blog at strongandsimplepodcast.com, on our Instagram under the post for this episode at Strong and Simple Podcast. And also, if this episode was useful for you, we always appreciate when you share our podcast with your friends, with your family members on social media. Please, tag us in it so we know that you have shared us, so we can shout you out and thank you for that. And if you have been listening for a couple of episodes and you like what you hear, please consider giving a little review, especially if it's a 5-star review, and especially if you have a few moments to write something, especially on Apple Podcasts. This really helps other folks find us, which helps to get our message out there and helps us support and help more people. So those are just some asks this week if you have some time, and we always appreciate it. And we always appreciate you listening. So take care. Have an amazing week and happy Tuesday. All right. Bye, friends.